Yes, people. How are we all doing? Welcome. First time I'm streaming on the channel. First time on me lonesome. If you know me, you know I've done a little bit of streaming in the past. But this is where we're going to do it now. And what better way to start than with a preview of Newcastle versus Liverpool? Are we finally going to get just a little bit of consistency? Someone can hope, can't they? Fingers crossed. We're obviously coming off the back of a fantastic result on Monday against our Everton in the derby, where there was a lot of real positives to take from it. Also a couple of negatives, also a couple of them. Certain things that I do need to see being built upon. But coming off that into the best defence in the league, Newcastle have, it isn't going to be easy. Hopefully, we can find that edge to it. But even though we've won the derby, it's hard to get all that excitement and all that confidence and all that happiness still there, because this has happened a couple of times so far this season. We've had it happen against Newcastle, not Newcastle. Against Newcastle and Bournemouth. We've had it happen against City. We've had it happen against Napoli. We've had it happen against Tottenham, and we've had it happen against Aston Villa, where we get a result. We get on the grand scheme of things, a good result, and you're sitting there going, right, that's the turning point, such and such happened, good performance, good defence, yada, yada, yada. You think you're at the turning point, and then bang, straight back down to earth, into another poor run of form, and we can't continue doing that, really. We cannot continue to do that if we want to be successful with the rest of our season. So this one, we are running out of times to constantly keep having inconsistent form, basically. And this is the best game we could have chosen to go for it. Yeah, what are you saying, SBR? What do you think will take from the match-going fans to protest in the ground with QIA purchasing United, and it's basically a done deal? Is the COVID title our last league title for the next 50 years? It's a loaded question. I think the thing with the match-going fans is they're very much, and I'm one of them. I go when I can. I've been to a fair few. When you're there, it's very different, but there has to be something that's said about these owners. There has to be, because Liverpool Football Club cannot continue to constantly build themselves up, go through hardship, slog, 5 years, build themselves up, get to the top, and then just stumble and just be satisfied with the bare minimum, bring it all back down, and then it's pointless. We have to stop settling for mediocrity once we get to the top. We have to stop just being happy with the bare minimum. And under these owners, with their model, that isn't going to happen. But the issue I have is there's a decent sized section of the fan base who are happy with the one league title we've got and are happy with the close calls that we've had, should we say. They're happy being the bridesmaid and never the bride, which I feel is starting to, that's not what Liverpool Football Club is about. Just because we had a spell where we were even worse than this, where we were so poor, we weren't competitive at all for an extended period of time, doesn't mean we should settle for this now. It really doesn't. We should be making our voices heard, and whether it's Qatar, whether it's Americans, whether it's Dubai, whoever it is, as long as they come in and they have footballing success as the forefront of the plan, there has to be two things for me. Footballing success, and also there has to be a understanding and respect for the fans of the football club. If these new owners come in and do both of those, they're fine. And whether it'll be the next title for the next 50 years, probably not. We are still a big club. We still have a good team. We've probably got, if we stick with this ownership model, if we stick with a model of all about sustained and money ball and this, that, and the other, it won't be many. It certainly won't be a dynasty that Liverpool Football Club should have. We'll end up with 2 or 3 and we'll be told to take it because we've had it worse in the past, which is my issue in itself. But cheers, SBR. I seem to need to get that off my chest. But anyway, on to the match. Newcastle. Obviously, last time out, we beat them 2-1 thanks to our last minute Fabio Carvalho winner. Starboy. Don't know where he is. He's in Klopp's basement. Never going to see him again, apparently. But hey, you're right, John, mate. Thank you very much for that. Much appreciated. But yeah, last time out against Newcastle, it was a good result. We didn't realise how good Newcastle were going to be all season. We didn't at the time. And as it turns out, we are the only team to have beaten Newcastle United this season, which is a mad stat. A mad stat, considering how poor we've been. But positives. We can do it again. We can. We have the quality in this team to get results. And we haven't shown it enough this year. You're right, Ozan Kabak, mate. Been a while since I've had to say that name. Hopefully I don't have to say it ever again for a Liverpool release. I think he was awful. But yeah, we have to be on it. And obviously the derby was a fantastic little result. Really needed it. Lifted them around the fan base massively. But there was still something there. There was still, in my opinion, a lack of quality at times. At times in that first half, we just evolved into just scrappy wasting of possession, and it was really quite disappointing at times. But we clicked into gear. We really did, and I saw signs of the old Liverpool, and that's what we're built upon. I've said it on Hassan, I've said it on the terrace, I've said it from on any platform I've been on. This transition that we've tried to do into a possession team where it's all about your tippy-tappy stuff, that isn't us. That isn't what suits these players. We are defined on our pace. We are defined on our power. We are defined on our quick counterattacks and relentless work rate. And we try to change that too much too quickly. And we shot ourselves in the foot. And now we're trying to make up for it. What we have to do now is stick by what worked on the derby. Quick counterattacks. We have to almost invite Newcastle on. They're not going to want that. But being away from home, we will almost be able to do that a little bit easier. We'll be able to invite them on a little bit easier. We'll be able to make them come out of their shell because they're at home, and then we hit them on the counter, and then we show our pace, and then we show our strength, and that's how we will get results from the end of this, to the end of the season. You're right, Eunice, mate. I think they are. I think they are. I know that the only game they've lost at home, the only game they've lost all season, the Prem is to us. So I think that stat's correct. Away from when we've been terrible, completely agree. But something's got to change eventually. We have too much quality to continue to be this terrible, albeit Newcastle isn't really the game to say that, considering some of the games we got coming up with. But I would like to think that the change in fortunes, there's been a lot said about the recent run of form, but seeing Klopp's words, seeing the reaction to that result on Monday, I'd like to think that is a turning point, because that's the difference I've seen from all the other ones. You enjoyed your time at Liverpool. To be fair, Liverpool Scranton is elite. I'll give you that one. We have to give up the ball and play on the counter. Yeah, that's where our strengths are, especially if, I'll touch on it later when I do my tactical thing and previewing the lineups and everything. Virgil van Dijk is an interesting dilemma. Are we going to start him, or are we going to try and completely save him for Madrid? If you're starting him, your defense is so much better, but it also has to play a little bit higher up. It's a really intriguing dynamic to play with, and it's something that we have to say. But yeah, I think we have to play on the counter. That is where our strengths lie. Our pace and our power in the attack and quick transitions. That's how we attack so well. And trying to be so patient in our possession does us more harm than good, and we can't afford to continue to do that. Finally, for once, we actually sat back and compacted periods during the game, even when we were ahead, much more stable. Agreed. We have to manage these games a little bit better in that sense. We don't always have to be on the front foot. We don't always have to be this dominant, big I am Liverpool. No. We don't need to be that all the time. It's not a bad thing if sometimes just come at us, and then expose yourselves. In your panic, in your haste, expose yourselves. That's what Manchester City done so well yesterday against Arsenal. Arsenal fans have been celebrating the fact they had more possession, but that's exactly what City wanted. I went and looked it up. The last time City beat us in the league was when we lost 4-1 to them at Anfield when we had no centre-backs. We dominated possession that game. We had, I think, 64% possession. But they played on the counter. They waited to draw it out and then they exposed the weaknesses. That's what we have to get back to doing because that is where our strengths lie. What do you think Klopp will say when he's asked about United's new owners? Klopp will avoid the question. Klopp will massively avoid the question because he's still got FSG in charge. He's not going to want to, upset the dynamics there. But I think internally there'll be question marks about what went wrong with that deal and why, these owners are still here when we're getting mixed messages. There just needs to be a bit of clarity from the club as to what the situation is. Because I don't, as much as, there's so many factors behind why we've been so bad this year. I think the off the pitch uncertainty, you saw it with Chelsea last year, it does have an impact. It does confuse people. It does cause a little bit of uncertainty. And I think that just needs to be cleared up because we deserve to know what's going on. We deserve something better than all these mixed messages. Big up Ryan, mate. Big up, big up. It is what it is. It is what it is. Qatar's United. I think it was always going to happen that a big state was going to come and get them. We've just got to hope that we get owners in who are, able to compete. If you actually play counter-attacking football against Madrid, there's a chance just like PSG did last year against them. The thing is with Real Madrid, and I'll touch on that when I preview Real Madrid on Monday, I think it'll be. But to beat Real Madrid is it sounds difficult, but to me it's easy. And it's all about how you deal with the midfield. And the reason why it's difficult for us is our midfield isn't the best. But I'll touch on that preview. See, this is the thing. I'm confident going up to the 2 and we'll get 3 points, mate. I think so. I'd hope so. But there's so many... How many times we've said this year? Honestly, think FSG aren't going to sell. We're stuck with them. There's too many things with FSG's future that I just wonder where they're going to get the funding from for it, that I'm sitting there going, they've probably got to sell, but maybe not right now. And this is the thing. I mean, SBR says it here. They don't want to sell a majority. They probably don't right now because they want to try and maximise the money they can get from the football club. And if they go full sale now for like 5 billion or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden we have success on the football pitch, and then the value would have went up to 6 or 7, they'll be disappointed that they lost out on that. What I think they want in an ideal world, they want to sell 49%, take that investment from the 49%, make the squad better, and then sell the other amount for even more money. And try and maximise it that way without having to put anything in. But the people who try and buy the football club aren't stupid. They can see what you're going to do. If I can see what you're going to do, the people who want to buy the football club can see what you're going to do, and they don't want to be played for a fiddle. Newcastle have us, United in the Cup, and City is their next fixtures. A win at St James's Park is detrimental to any top 4 hopes. They have a tough run, but I also think the thing with Newcastle is their defence is really, really good. It's not like, in terms of quality, probably not one of the top 5 defences in the league, but in just how they're set up, it's been one of the most enjoyable things to watch as someone who appreciates good defensive football because they are so well drilled. And that's what's always been our weakness. We struggle against these teams that are well drilled and set up in a low block and just aim to annoy us. Because especially this season and the year where we had no centre-backs, we got annoyed too easy. We panicked too easy. We panicked too quick. And then we just settled into exactly what they wanted us to do. We just need to be lucky against Madrid for once. The only luck we've had in the last 6 years was that goal that got disallowed in the first half in the last final. To be fair, yeah, but I don't think you can rely on luck in these Champions League ties. I really don't. They wanted 2 billion for 30%. See, this is the thing. Like, that would end up being what? 7 billion for the football club? I don't think anyone's going to pay that. So I think there'll be a, what's it called? They'll meet halfway. Eventually they'll meet halfway when they sell the football club. Average players cost 100 mil now. FSG giving 30 mil a season for transfer doesn't cost anymore. Yep. But hey ho, it's what we got to work with. So praise be to whoever the director of football is. Hopefully he can make it work. Bruno Gimenez isn't playing. Your midfield is better, especially when Thiago is out. The new kid is playing. That Thiago that makes an interesting one. we are better in a sense and we're worse in a sense. I think Thiago has his games where he's useful, and I think this one coming up, Newcastle, would have been one of those ones. But against an Everton or against a a lower down team where they're just going to try and set up to annoy you, I don't necessarily think that would have been a game for Thiago. But there's aspects of Thiago which are needed. There's aspects which hurt us a little bit more with the current makeup of the squad. So there's a bit of sense behind the we're worse with Thiago, but I think just that bland statement on its own, I don't think it really makes complete sense. With Diogo and Bobby back fit, who's your attacking trio for Madrid? Well, if you saw me on Hassam's channel Tuesday, was it? You'd know that my front three for Madrid: Salah, Nunes, Jota. Regardless of what happens on the weekend, I need to see Jota back in that team because of that fact that he's got where he can just turn half chance into goals. And in these tight European ties, I need that. I need that. Yes, Ravi, mate. Good to see you. Do you think Liverpool can play three at the back with this squad? I think we can, but I never think we will because Klopp hates back threes. But with the squad, we do. We can, and I'm a back three lover. I know how exactly I would line this team up in a back three. Robertson would be a centre back in the back three, and it would cause so many overload problems. But that might be something I'd do when there's no footy for a while, and I'd analyse just how I would set us up in a back three. Do you think FSG is ever going to leave one day? Yes, eventually they will. Eventually, whether it's tomorrow, a year, or 5 years, FSG will go because they don't like football anymore. They never liked it anyway. But now that we're reaching the point we are, where they have to start delving into their pockets more and more and more to reach sustained success, they will sell eventually. I bet Klopp he has done once and he got nothing for it. I'm not surprised he doesn't, but I would like to see him. Need Nunes to annoy the shit out of Trippier and keep him pinned back might be the solution to winning the game. My solution to winning the game, I'll touch on in a bit with the tactics, but it comes in their selection because they've got a couple injuries, and I think there's one point in that selection where we can really cause them problems. But Nunes can pin Trippier back because of how much of a threat he carries. Diogo on the left or Diogo centre, Darwin left wing, Diogo in the centre. Nunes left wing is his best position now. Probably, I think. Yeah, because he plays as a striker / left winger for Benfica. I think he enjoys that position more. I think he's more natural picking up them spots. So yeah, I probably agree with you. Back three, so it would be. I don't think we get new owners in time for the summer, and I don't see FSG sanctioning the 150 million deal for Bellingham. The only thing I would say to that, SBR, is Liverpool Football Club are idiots. They're idiots at times, but they're not stupid. We aren't going to spend 4 years fawning after a player, trying to chat him up, practically grooming him at England training camps, all this, that, and the other, chatting to his dad, offering jobs, yada, 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 all that nonsense. We aren't going to do all that just to not know how much he's going to cost. The only worry is Bellingham is going to cost 100 million. My worry is FSG would see a window was Bellingham and done. And that isn't enough. That would not solve any problems we have. Because when he goes down with an injury, because we run him into the ground, then what do we do? We've got Jota, we do. Bossman. Robert centre back, yes, that's Sutton again for that video. But I think with his skill set, he can do it. He really can do it. And I think there's aspects to that centre back role I'll put him in where he'd thrive. He really would. How can don't know what he's done wrong, but I'd love to see Fabio get some game time because whenever he's played, he's been solid. Whenever he's played, he has been solid. And we did it with Sancho, not to the same extent as with Bellingham, to be fair. Not with the same extent as to Bellingham. But how do I see this game going? How do I see it going? It's going to be a real cagey one for us. I really do. I think Newcastle, their last 5 games, they've only won 1. They've drawn 4. They're out of form, should we say. Just picking up a lot of draws rather than wins. And they could see this game as a chance to, kick them on, restart that, get going again. So, if I go to my little tactics board here, you can see how I think both teams are going to line up. So, with Newcastle, Against Bournemouth, I had a couple of players go off with injuries. Saint-Maximin, Almiron, and what's his name? Joe Willock. That's his name. Joe Willock. All three of them went off, and from what I've read, from what I've been told from Newcastle fans, Saint-Maximin and Almiron could make the game. They could make the game, but Almiron's the 50%. Joe Willock probably won't make it, but Saint-Maximin probably will. So based off of that information, I could see them either lining up like this in a 4-3-3 with Isak on the wing. Maybe Isak is over on the left and Saint-Maximin's over on the right. But I think Newcastle will be eyeing up the matchup against Trent with Saint-Maximin. So I'd assume they'd go more so like this. But there's also the prospect of, with Anthony Gordon coming in, maybe they switch to a 4-4-2 with Isak and Wilson up top, Saint-Maximin on the right, Anthony Gordon in the middle, and Joe Linton and Longstaff together in the middle. I don't see that happening personally because I don't think Eddie Howe would want to match up 3v2 in the midfield. So I expect to see something similar to what they've done against Bournemouth and like they've done all season, but with Anthony Gordon playing almost as an advanced 8, trying to push into that space there. But if you look at the team, that's a strong team. That's a really strong Newcastle team. They've caused a lot of problems this season for a lot of good sides. Got a draw against Arsenal. Got a draw against Man City. Beat Tottenham. Sorry, they can cause problems, and they beat Chelsea as well. But we can get at them. They're a little bit out of form at the minute, and there's 3 key aspects of this game for me. There's 3. First of all, my lineup: I'd go Alisson in goal. I'd have Trent Alexander-Arnold at right back, Joe Gomez and Van Dijk as centre backs. I would bring Van Dijk back in. I think we need to make sure he's got match sharpness for that Madrid game because he's going to be going up against a lot of pace in that Madrid team in Rodrigo and Vinicius. I'd have Andy Robertson at left back, and I'd keep the same midfield 3 that we went with against Newcastle. Against Everton, sorry. The only change I'd potentially make is Henderson would come out and Naby Keita would come into there if we want to go for a little bit more of a possession-dominant midfield. But when I look at this Newcastle team, I look at a midfield, really, which is very battle-heavy. It's very sort of aggressive, physical. It wants to get stuck in. And to me, Naby Keita would just struggle to death in that game. He probably got off injured after 20 minutes. So I would stick with the midfield 2 that we ran with against Everton. I thought all 3 of them had solid games, especially Stefan. I don't think you can drop any of them really for it. I'd have Salah on the right, I'd have Cody Gakpo in the middle, and I'd have Darwin Núñez on the left. So how would I get at this Newcastle team? Well, straight away, I'm going to look at how I think they would try and attack without Bruno Guimaraes, who was suspended, and Joe Willock, who was injured. What they like to do is get these link-ups down the wings. So they'd often end up pushing on winger on the right-hand side, Trippier and Almiron, or in this case, Isak. They'd have them linking up together. And Sean Longstaff would sit in there. Whereas on the left-hand side, it's Gordon and it's Saint-Maximin who would link up, and then Dan Burn would almost form a back 3 with Fabian Schär, Sven Botman, and Dan Burn, with the 2 DMs stepping up into about there-ish. And they try and end up in a 3-2-5, which is how most teams try and end up now. But this is a matchup, which was mentioned earlier, which I think can cause problems. Darwin Núñez on Kieran Trippier. Kieran Trippier likes to attack. Kieran Trippier will attack. That's how Newcastle, like to play it. But based off of who's up right centre back in Fabian Schär, with the pace Núñez has got, if we're able to win the ball back well in these positions, we can cause... the space will open up, really. The space will open up, and we can really cause problems down that side. And we saw against Everton what Núñez can do in the transition. The first goal was completely on his pace and his dribbling, albeit it was very, very weird-looking dribbling. It was still effective dribbling. So what I see happening a little bit in this game is us being compact in the midfield, which Jurgen Klopp has went on a lot about, and having Salah dropping to help out on Gordon and St. Maximin. Whoever would win the ball back, let me just go grab the ball here. The ball would be bouncing around, it'd come out. The ball has to end up with Trent Alexander-Arnold. It has to, because he's the only player capable of playing that pass. And if that pass is played, Kieran Trippier can't keep up. And we've seen how quick these three can be in transition. If we can hit them on the transition, Gordon and Trippier has to be getting back. There's so many problems we can cause there, especially when you drag Fabian Schär out and the space to open up for Gakpo to make the run, or Sven Botman would be dragged over. It just opens up so many possibilities if we can set up ourselves with the compact midfield, but almost cheat. I know Gary Neville uses this term a lot. Cheat with your fullback. Not your fullback, your winger, sorry. Cheat with your winger. So normally you'd have, let's just get back to this setup. You would end up having Salah tracking back there like so. And he would end up doing a defensive work, picking up a man, stopping that. What we should do on this side is almost invite Kieran Trippier to come forward. Let him come forward and gamble our defence is strong enough to deal with any crosses or any balls put into the box. And if it is capable of that, so you'd end up with Robertson on Isak. Bajcetic would have to be, shuttling really, but he's got the legs for it, like we saw against Everton on Monday. But you'd tell Nunes to almost stay there, right, ready, offer a little bit of support, track him back a little bit. But once he hits about there, and you can switch him onto Stefan, stay there, and then wait for either Gomez, Henderson, or Trent to play that ball into that space there, and then the transition can hurt them. But that's not the only way. That is not the only way. I think down the right-hand side, this is where the bringing in of Anthony Gordon within the midfield three will cause them issues in terms of matchups. Because as much as I have been vocal on my displeasure for Jordan Henderson in the past couple of seasons, he still has his moments. And as a Sunderland lad, up against Newcastle, with a point to prove, I think this would be another one of them moments. And if we're looking at the matchups there, St. Maximin doesn't track back. He doesn't track back at all. He's the definition of a cheating winger. So straight away, we don't have to worry necessarily about him being a threat for us defensively. When we look at how we'd match up elsewhere, you'd have Cody Gakpo, who would drop into this space right here. I thought he was very good at that against Everton as well, in terms of that false nine role. Very good at drifting into that space and dragging players out. And that's what the false nine has to do. He has to drag the players out. Once he's done that, and Sven Botman or Joe Linton comes in, the matchups can begin. You'd instantly have an overload there. Straight away like that, you'd have an overload there. If Gakpo is if we're able to sort the correct player out, and let's say it's Sven Botman, all of a sudden look at the space. But because Anthony Gordon isn't necessarily a centre mid, he's a winger, I think there's real potential in this game for him to end up picking up Trent Alexander-Arnold a bit too much. He'll end up going on to Trent. He'll end up switching on to Trent. And if he switches on to Trent, all of a sudden, you have a complete mismatch there. And Trent is fantastic on the ball. If he plays it into Salah, or even better, if we're able to actually get this matchup with Gakpo dropping in there and able to drag out, all of a sudden that space opens up wonderfully. That is a key matchup. If Anthony Gordon is slipping up and picking up the wrong man because of his natural instincts as a winger, you can punish them so much, especially with the best player in the league, and Mo Salah. But this is another thing that we have to look at the midfield. Obviously, they had a really good game last time out against Everton. Fabinho was probably the worst out of the three, but agendas will agenda. Henderson and Bajcetic as well. They were all fantastic at their jobs. And they're going up against a similar type of midfield. Joe Linton loves a battle. Joe Linton is one of the weirdest stories I've seen in football in a long time. One of the worst strikers turned into one of the best box-to-boxers. But he's having to play an unfamiliar role at the minute as a 6 because, obviously, Bruno Guimaraes is suspended. Which then ends up leading Sean Longstaff, and before it was Joe Willock, but now it's Anthony Gordon. Sean Longstaff is up for a battle, but I don't think he's very good at them. Anthony Gordon is not up for a battle. So we should, and I can't believe I'm saying this season, we should be able to win this midfield battle. We should be able to. And if we are able to win this midfield battle, that opens up a whole other avenue because, like Eunice says here, let me just get it up. The biggest thing is silencing that crowd. If we can have midfield dominance, we can silence that crowd very quickly and settle into a rhythm and try and draw them out. And obviously, they're going to be a threat. They're always a threat. Shaw, Botman, Bain on set pieces with Joe Linton, Isak. They've got tall players in there, but Callum Wilson always scares me. Callum Wilson. I think he's such a big threat in terms of a goal scorer. There's stuff we've got to look out for, but with Van Dijk and Gomez, I know what they can do as a partnership, and I'd like to see them do similar up against Callum Wilson this time. And maybe the high line can work well against Newcastle. Who knows? But let's catch up with some of the comments here. Let's catch up with them. Game screams 0-0. I'd like to think we score. I think I've pointed out a couple of avenues of our attack which we can cause them problems. The thing we can't do is let them settle for a deep setup, because this is something I touched on earlier. I love watching them set up in a deep shape. They do what Rafa Benitez used to do brilliantly, which was tuck the fullbacks into the box. So you end up with a flat four like this, and it's something Sean Dyche done against Arsenal as well. Your entire back four is in your box there. Then the only interesting thing will be if you can get St. Maximin's track back, because in an ideal situation, St. Maximin and Isak will track back. And then you'd have your flat midfield three camped just on the edge with Callum Wilson doing all the pressing. And because they're so deep, you'd end up with us, it always seems, Trent Alexander-Arnold collecting the ball at about here with him there. Fabinho will be there. Nunes will be there. Bajcetic will be there. Robertson will be there. And then your two centre-backs will be right up there. But with Trent collecting the ball there and how deeply they'd be set up, like so, he just ended up having to cross it in. And our crossing isn't exactly great. So we have this setup, we're able to sit back and defend, has to be avoided like the plague. Like the plague. Because that's exactly what they want. And they will do that if they get an early goal. Don't think that because they're at home, they'll try and get a second and a third. No, they get a goal, they will set up like this, and they will win the match. We have to avoid conceding early on. He's going to play midfield three because he's going to want his midfielders to double up on our wingers. Yes, but Anthony Gordon isn't exactly a midfielder, and that's why I pointed out that matchup. Thank you, Realism, mate. Much appreciated. See you on Hassan's channel all the time. I think a 1-0 draw, I could see that. I really could. At least my favourite relegation of being in the lead now. Only, what is it now? 8 points from safety? 8 points from the magic 40 mark? Get in there, boys. Get in there. Come on. Thank you very much, Ash. Much appreciated. I'd still play a Matip VVD partnership, to be honest. It's better than the VVD Gomez one. This is a topic that I've been meaning to speak about. I don't think it is. I don't think it is at the minute, anyway. Because Liverpool's centre-backs are an aggressor and a coverer. And all that was happening recently, or in the last couple of games of Gomez and Van Dijk, when Gomez was struggling a little bit, was he didn't know what his role was. If we are going to go to this Van Dijk-Gomez partnership, which I think is better because it's quicker, we have to sit there and let Van Dijk be an aggressor again. He has to be the aggressor. He has to be the one stepping up, putting his foot on the ball, creating. When he does that, Gomez can cover and you're sound. The reason why Matip Van Dijk works, but I wouldn't want it for this game, is Matip is the aggressor, Van Dijk is the coverer. But Van Dijk's coming back from an injury, and I don't want to put him in the strenuous role where he's got to do all the run. But that's just me. Only won 2 away. That is shocking, that, isn't it? We've released more books than we've won away games. Big up, G. Make sure you subscribe to him as well. Top creator. I think the biggest thing will be, add that one. Good to point that one. Thomas Tuchel, yep. We must also not be scared to play dirty, time waste, diving, etc. I've seen teams frustrate them and they can't score. Yes. This has been my biggest gripe with Liverpool recently. We have to engage in the dark arts. It's how you win these football matches, how you win these tough games. We have to not be afraid to leave to, time waste. Them cynical fouls that Rodri and Fernandinho are so synonymous with. We need to get back to doing that. Fabinho was doing that great in his pomp. Pick up Pablo. I just need how crazy it is we won the midfield battle the other day. We won the midfield battle because not only were we all right, Everton stink. Everton stink. They're going down to celebrate it. The VVD Gomez partnership's been poor this season. It has. So has VVD Matip. The only good partnership we've had this season has been Canate Van Dijk. So we should invite them onto us and counter, basically. Yes. We have to bring Newcastle onto us. And if we're on them, they'll settle into that defensive shape. Like, let me just pull it back up again. If they settle back up into this shape, they'll win. We have to invite them onto us, let them try and expand, let them try and open up their game, and then hit them. Because that's actually what we've done against Everton. Who were a team much worse at it than us. When we were putting the pressure on them, when we were having our slow build-up attacks, we weren't creating much. We were stumbling into these same problems. Trent would collect the ball, he'd have build-up out there, and he'd end up with Salah trying to hit a shot from miles out, a Robertson cross that isn't well hit, Nunes trying to hit a shot from miles out. It never really ends up well when we're in this situation. 8 points from 40. He's going to hit different when we get that ugly 100 at Forest at home to get 40 points. Pitch invasion. Like Everton done last year at Palace. Get everyone on the pitch. We survived relegation, boys. Get in there. I'd rather have Fabinho and Van Dijk partnership than Gomez or Matip. Fabinho at centre-back is something that I've been vocal about potentially having happened because I think it limits his weaknesses a little bit more. But I don't think this is the game for it because we need to combat their midfield with combative midfielders, and Fabinho is key to that because he's not quick anymore. He's not as energetic and physically capable as before, but he still loves a good tackle. And having him in the midfield able to just foul and break up attacks would be very, very important. To be fair, in the UCL, I don't want to see Gomez. He's never impressed me in the UCL. Van Dijk and Matip was the partnership in the UCL win in 2019. We always end up with a different partnership in the Champions League than we do in the Premier League. Don't know why, but we always do. Which is why it shocked me so much this season to see Canate play as much football as he has done. You playing this week? Fuck's sake, Pablo. No, I do not look like Ben Book. He's injured anyway. Everton stink, but they won Arsenal midfield back line. I thought their midfield would physically dominate ours. Yes, but the reason they won the Arsenal midfield battle was Arsenal panicked. Arsenal didn't get what they wanted in the first 10 minutes, so they really started to panic and shit themselves and settled into the mould that Everton wanted. When we say they won the midfield battle, all that really happened in Arsenal-Everton was Ben White putting a shit ton of crosses, or Odegaard tried to put in Hail Mary balls, or Zinchenko ended up hitting it from miles outside the box. They didn't take the ball constantly in the midfield. The midfield was just set up deep, so they couldn't break through it. I agree, transition-based football suits us. That it does. Pitch invasion, yeah. We've got to celebrate something this season, Ryan. We've got to celebrate something. I think the game might be dependent on how we deal with possession in the midfield. We either rotate the ball well like we did against Everton, or we hoof it and play only safe like previously. I think hoofball is a thing of... It's an effective thing, but we don't do it well enough at times. Jordan Henderson's hoofball is a hoofball, but I think City played a hoofball yesterday and it worked. We just never played to the correct players, which is why something that I've been meaning to talk on. The kickoff. That's it. Kickoff. What we do on kickoff when we pass it back and then we lump it long to the left winger and he tries to knock it down but doesn't knock it down. Yeah. Why? Why do we still do that? Because we don't win it anymore. We don't win the ball anymore off them. We always end up conceding the throw-in. The last time we won one of them was in the Champions League final against Tottenham, but we still do it. Fabinho centre-back, do feel that would suit him, would have less ground to cover. He played it brilliantly when we had no centre-backs. The issue was we had no one to step into his position, so we suffered because of that. I think Klopp should change to a 4-2-3-1. Next season, maybe, but for this season, he's not going to. And for this season, if he's going to change formation, I want to see a 4-4-2 rather than a 4-2-3-1. Arsenal dominated possession. They did because Everton was sat like this. So basically, Arsenal, let me set it up correctly. They ended up with this. So you'd have, just imagine that, that one is Xhaka, that one is Odegaard, that one is Ben White, Martinelli, Saka, and Nketiah. Do you notice how deep and compact McNeil? You'd have Alex Iwobi on this side. You had Idrissa Gana Gueye there, Abdoulaye Doucouré there, and Amadou Onana there. When they were all set up there, the passing option is only there and there. They go back there, try and bring them out, try and make them stretch again. But then it end up going to maybe Zinchenko, then Xhaka, then Zinchenko, then it go out to Martinelli, but he can't do anything, so it go back to Zinchenko, then it go back to Xhaka, then it'll be shot wide or shot over the bar, or they'll recycle it and end up with Odegaard, and they'll put a ball in that goes out for a goal kick. Or it end up with Ben White and he put in a cross that's headed the way out for a throw-in or something. They just end up settling into a shape which they wanted to settle up into. And that's an issue with Arteta's tactics because he ends up blocking too much of the midfield and inviting teams to do that. Will Klopp rest any players for Real Madrid? I don't think he does. I don't think we're in a position to rest players, to be honest. I really don't think we're in a position to rest them. Exactly, Eunice. The whole bet without Thiago thing is going too far. I understand it, though, but people forget Thiago was our most important player last season and we almost won the quad. It has the thing is with the better without Thiago thing, it's correct, but in a sense. So the same games where we're better without him because his skill set isn't needed and someone else's is. But there's also games where his skill set is exactly what's needed. So that's a normal thing in football. That is a very normal thing in football to have a game where one player's skill set is not as well suited to as another's. Try and play with the same level. Yeah, I think we need to try and base a bit of consistency, but again, like I said, I would start Jota against Madrid, regardless of what Cody Gakpo does. Are we all agreeing Hendo ain't getting dropped this weekend, right? I don't think you can drop him. I think you need his physicality that he gives in this midfield instead of what Naby Keita can bring you because of the reasons I've said. They're going to want to be combative. You're going to want players to exploit that space that Anthony Gordon might leave, and if we're going to want him to move out wide and let Salah go into the middle, Jordan Henderson's better at that than Naby Keita is. But yeah, score predictions. Now, this is a really, really tough one because I could see this game going any which way it wants to go because it all depends on how we try and attack. If we try and settle back into the stupid possession stuff, we will lose the game. They'll hit us on the counter and we will lose the game. But I'm going to have a little bit of confidence here, which is shocking considering everything that's happened with me in the past couple of months. I'm going to have a little bit of confidence and say we're going to stick by the style that worked against Everton. We're going to stick by that. And if we're going to stick by that, we can cause them problems. St. James's Park is a really tough place to go. They've got a really good home record. But that's the sticking point for me. They've got a really good home record. And they'll want to keep that. They'll want to try and stay this year without losing at home. Which is why I'm going to say my head tells me 2-2. My heart tells me 2-1 Liverpool. But I think the matchup of Núñez and Trippier and the matchup of Trent and Henderson and Salah up against Gordon and Dan Burn, that they will be where we get our goals from. But they're always a dangerous team, Newcastle. They are a dangerous team. And Isak obviously scored against us last time. They've got Almiron as well, who, whether he starts or not, he will be there. Callum Wilson scares the shit out of me. St. Maximin's always a threat, even if he doesn't get his goal. But I'm gonna go for the win. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win. Call it delusion, but I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win. When you're back from injury, I don't know. Not a clue when I'm back, mate. But it's the high scored 0-0 draw. 4-1. Confidence from the last game will help, especially players like Trent and Bajcetic. Time to see we have to play the 4-4-2 diamond, the same formation as last game. I don't see the point in changing a winning team, especially when we don't win that often at the minute. So I'd try and keep that set up the exact same, that 4-3-3 that we ran with Bajcetic on the left as the advanced one. And, that frees up Nunes and gives Gakpo a little bit more license and everything, because we finally just got Cody Gakpo to figure out his position. I don't think it makes sense to move him deeper and, have a completely different style of play than a false nine. But hey, I mean, if we hadn't beat Everton, I would have much seen it. You're right, Sam. You're right, Sam. Look how much better when my brother's live. Thank you very much, mate. To be fair, this was exactly what you got on me about Tuesday. Trent needs to work on back post defending. Dan Burn will try and gamble on that. Potentially Eunice, but I don't think that Dan Burn is going, well, based off of who they've got on that left-hand side in Anthony Gordon and St. Maximin, I don't think they can afford to let Dan Burn push on this much, because, yes, he's a threat at the back post, but if they don't win at the back post, Salah has free reign down that right-hand side. And as out of form as a 30-goal, 30 GA player is this season, he's still a big threat. Would you bench Gakpo and risk Jota for this game? No. I would still start Cody Gakpo. I'd start Cody Gakpo for this one, but I'd give Jota, he got 20 minutes last time, I'd give him 30, maybe even 35 minutes, depending on how the game's going. And I would start Jota against Madrid, because what Jota gives you in terms of his skill set, I think is more beneficial for the style of play we should play with against Madrid than what Cody Gakpo gives you. Alisson, Trent, VVD, Gomez, Robertson, Fabinho, Bajcetic, Keita, Salah, Gakpo, Nunes. Hassam, it's almost like you just watch the stream, because if I just pull this up here, wrong one, this one. If we just go have a little look at my team, it's Bajcetic, it's Fabinho, it's Robertson, it's Van Dijk, it's Gomez, it's Alexander-Arnold, it's Henderson, it's Salah, it's Gakpo, and it's Nunes. It's the exact same team, because that is what we have to do. We have to build consistency now, and consistency starts from team selection. And I know I've just said I'd start Jota against Madrid, but I think it's a bit different when you have European football and you have Premier League football, and the focus still has to be Premier League football, because we have to try and get as close to or in the top four. That has to be the priority. Jota shouldn't start against Newcastle. Give him half hour, though, and start him against Madrid against Gakpo. Yeah, exactly that. It is a great team. I start with fastest striker. Is he still our top scorer? I think Salah's matched him now, hasn't he? I think Salah's matched him. We disagree with our hands. You had Keita in your team, Hassam. Imagine when Joe Linton goes straight through Keita and he's got to get stretched off. That's what I don't want. My only change from Madrid would be Jota for Gakpo. I think that has to be the common consensus change, because I think Jota gives you that little bit extra. That Keita performance away Newcastle last season, it was special. It was. And it's the only thing that's in my head going, maybe Keita should start. But I just think that from what Henderson gives you, I can't believe I'm uttering this sentence, and Hassan will be furious. What Henderson gives you from an attacking end is more beneficial to the matchups in this game than what Keita does. Because, like I said earlier, you end up with St. Maximin, Gordon, Dan Burn. Naby Keita doesn't want to go out there. Naby Keita wants to go in there, which is where I need him going. Jordan Henderson will go out there, and then Trent will end up there. That is the matchup that we need to happen. That triangle. And Harvey Elliott here, he would end up doing the exact same thing that Keita would do, but he wouldn't go into the box. He'd end up standing about there. And it just ends up blocking Salah's lane. So then he has to play like prime 2016 Mark Albrighton. This isn't a game for Harvey Elliott. To be honest, I don't think right centre mid with the right-hand side as it is, with the form that we're in, is made for Harvey Elliott at the minute. So that's all I've got to say on that point. Hendo shouldn't be anywhere near that Madrid game. Ooh, that's an interesting point, that. I think it depends on how he performs today, because if he has another good game against Newcastle, where we see not just a press where he's, fucking but doesn't win the ball. If we see an effective press like he had against Everton, I'd go for him against Madrid because I don't think the setup that we should use against Madrid is possession heavy. I actually think Case should start. Harvey should be sold. Harvey Elliott should not be sold. Harvey Elliott just shouldn't be played at right centre mid. Some will say Harvey is needed in this game legs wise. No, I wouldn't say so because I think Henderson's legs will be enough. Gordon's not necessarily quick. I don't think. I think Henderson could deal with that relatively okay. Do you think Stefan Bajcetic should be in the Spain squad soon? Yeah. From what I've seen, this kid's boss. The kid's absolutely boss. And he's certainly the future for that Spain midfield alongside Gavi and Pedri because of his flexibility in the roles he can play. What you said, he got in the squad. Backup right wing. We need a backup right wing. We haven't had a backup right wing for 5 years. Just chuck with a backup right wing. But anyway, that's it. First stream done. First preview done. That was actually really enjoyable. That was really, really enjoyable. Thank you all for watching. Much, much appreciated. I will. What have I got to say? I sound so much better at this. Make sure to like the video. Yes. Make sure to subscribe. Yes. Turn on notifications. Yes. Follow all the links that are on that ticker thing down there, which Sam taught me about. Yes. Anything else? No. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to go watch Barcelona beat Man United now. Hope you're all doing that as well. In a bit, everyone. Thank you all for watching.